So, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen. This is not going to be a race between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. I would bet my beloved fishing camp in Maine that that is not going to happen. That's not going to happen. So what will happen? Well, I don't know. One of like 400 distinct other possibilities? I mean, I just can't even, pick one. By the way, if it's Gavin Newsom, we all should be very, very concerned. That guy's scary, and I mean it. I mean it, scary. Yeah, but that's a whole separate conversation. But the point is, this will be forced. These issues will be forced soon, like in a year. And the road from here to November of 2024 is going to be filled with developments nobody in this room could foresee. I can promise you that. So it's about to get very serious, for sure. It's only leadership of the world at stake, which is also, by the way, we now know, the most lucrative possible political franchise in human history. So everything's at stake. What wouldn't they do? What haven't they done? What might they do next? Let your imagination run wild. So the question, the only one that you can answer is, how will you prepare yourself for that? And because that really is the only question. And I mean, my answers to that in my own life, I'll just tell you what I think. One, be a little bit more serious. Take this seriously. Much as you want to retreat and pretend everything is fine, sit down. It's not fine, okay? Two, maybe if you look across at the people you despise, the small group of people running this country, it is small. It does not represent most people in America. It doesn't represent anything close to a majority at all. Again, just to restate, Donald Trump, who is hated as a blood enemy by over 40% of the population, and who's been attacked in ways that no political figure's ever been attacked in the West, is beating the incumbent president, okay? I'm not sure that's entirely an endorsement of Trump. To some extent it is, and his empathy, that's real. But it's also a sign of revulsion, deep dissatisfaction with what we're doing. So most people are not on board with this. But the people who are responsible for it are the most dishonest, the most ruthless, the most anti-human group I've ever dealt with. And I spent 35 years living in Washington. I don't even recognize these people and what they're doing. I really don't. It's so dark. They're doing things that can't even, on an academic level, conceivably help the United States or the population that lives here. Letting in 7 million people from the poorest countries in the world illegally, and then immediately putting them all on public benefits? I mean, that right there will destroy the country. And they did that on purpose. So these are really, really dark people. The darkest. So I need to be the opposite of that. And I'm not a super good person. The last thing I would do is claim to be. But this is the moment to try a little harder to be a little bit better. This is not the moment to be drunk all the time. This is not the moment to tell lies. As they go lower, go higher. And there are many reasons for this. And one is spiritual. I'll just be totally honest. I do think this is a spiritual battle. There's no political explanation for it whatsoever. But one other reason is for the way that you feel about yourself. When you're honest, you are proud of yourself. When you're honest, you are strong. When you lie, you become weak. That is true. Tell a lie, you become weak. Why do you lie? Because you're hiding something. Because you believe that the people around you knew what you really thought or said or did, they would think less of you. That diminishes you. Your power ebbs when you lie. Tell the truth. Live like a decent person. Try. I mean, you really feel like Cotton Mather just saying that out loud. It sounds so radical, but it's not. And gather your family to you in a real way. If you've got a dispute with a sibling or a parent or a child or the person who shares your bed, do your best to make it better. Spend less time on Twitter. Spend more time talking to your wife. I mean it. Strengthen the core. And the core is your family. It's the orbit right around you. I believe very, very strongly, more than almost anything, in the concentric circle theory of love, which is when you love people and you help them, either with your time or your empathy or your advice or your money, it should begin at the closest level to you. So I'm not sending a single dollar for mosquito nets in Congo until my wife is happy with me. I mean it. I mean it. And I'm not going to worry about the children until my 4 children are in a good place and until I've called them every single day. And I'm not giving any more money to the Episcopal Church until my housekeeper gets a new car. I mean it. She's my housekeeper. She's cleaning my toilets. I'm serious. And so think of yourself, particularly for the head of household, as, and not in an egotistical way, but in a very practical way. Like it all radiates out from you. Like make sure that the in-close relationships are good. And spend all your time on that until they are. And in so doing, you become stronger, your family becomes stronger, and I'm using family in a very loose sense because a lot of people don't have at this point, and this is a product of policy, intentional, don't have nuclear families. I'm so blessed to have one, but many people who I love don't, including my own children. But your family and the people that you have real relationships with. And what's a real relationship? A real relationship, a fake relationship is when you're talking to someone and you tell the truth about other people. Oh, she's such a bitch. Oh, we're close. Okay. No. That's a fake, that's a relationship you have with your hairdresser, okay? It's a fake relationship. A real relationship is when you tell the truth about yourself. That's the acid test. Do I have a real relationship with this person? Am I willing to admit who I really am? And it's those relationships you strengthen. And the more you do, the stronger you get. So that's the first thing. Take stock of your own life. Try to be virtuous. I know it sounds so dopey. I'm way too Episcopalian to even have these conversations, but it's real. Live in a way that you're proud of. And the prouder you are of it, the less they're going to mess with you. You stand a little tall. Well, you can't mess with me. I got my household squared away. Back off. Touch my kids and get hurt. That's how people with self-respect behave. People with no self-respect are all like, I don't know. The therapist said maybe. What? Get out of here, you freak. You're a therapist? Be gone. Have you dealt with them? You know what I'm talking about? The school people, well, the school therapist. First of all, you shouldn't have a therapist, weirdo. Anyway, whatever, don't even get me going. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing, and I'll stop with this because now I'm really wound up. And Johnny's gonna calm me down. We're gonna have like a civilized, more academic conversation. But the second thing is, be brave. I mean, it's actually not that complicated. I think about all the people I admire, and there are so many. And, like a lot of people who like to read a lot, I have a fetish for smart people. Oh, he's so smart. It's like a massive compliment in my family. He's so smart. Oh, he's so smart. I can promise you after spending, 35 years living among valedictorians with HBS degrees, immaterial. Immaterial. The people I admire are not the smartest. Some of them are. Well, I think most of my friends are smart. All my kids are smart. My wife's smart. Great. My dogs are stupid. Wonderful, wonderful people. I mean that. Intelligence is not the measure. It's not the measure of your moral value. And it's also not, and this is an insight that came to me late in life, it's not a measure, a predictive measure of your effectiveness. Can't, if you gave IQ tests, which by the way, sorry guys, are real, to a class of 6th graders and then followed them longitudinally, this has been done actually, like how'd they do? The smartest kid, probably working at Jiffy Lube, died of a drug OD. Like that's not actually a predictor of success. I'll tell you what is, bravery. And it's a combination of factors, but the person who's brave wins, period. And in a moment like this, the stakes are higher. It's not just a matter of like being the next guy who invents something cool and then figures out a way to sell it. No, it's do you want your children to be able to live here? Do you want to have grandchildren at all? And if you're not brave, that won't happen. And it's very clear at this point. And I could bore you with a lot of dark stats, but I'm not going to because you know them. And so be brave. And by the way, there's nothing easier. The key to being brave is brooding about death. This is just true, I believe. The key to being brave is brooding about death. All anxiety and all fear stems from the most basic of all fears, which is the fear of death, which is inborn. You feel it from the moment you arrive because you know it's going to end on some level. My deepest child on our 5th birthday burst into tears, and I said, why? All my other more shallow children were psyched for the cake. My deep child said, well, I don't want it to end. And I said, what? My life. I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. I could drown in these waters. They're too deep. I did start crying. Yes, I did. Okay, I'll admit it. But anyway, but whether we articulate it or not, that is the root of all anxiety. And so you need to focus on that. And I grew up in a place when I was a kid called La Jolla, California, which had a lot of, I know someone just snickered. Okay, got it. Yes, I know. It has a lot going for it. It's beautiful and all that. But in retrospect, the one thing that made it a really bad place actually to grow up and to live, and why I don't visit anymore, is there was only one taboo in La Jolla and in all kind of affluent towns like La Jolla in the West, which is death. It's like the one thing you could not talk about. I mean, people had freaky sex situations in La Jolla that would, even in Wilmington, you'd be shocked by it. And I'm serious, okay? It's a little inside joke for people from Wilmington. Oh. Anyway, sorry. But you would be. Like, nothing was judged. Like, well, I ended up, marrying the babysitter, but then I brought the massage therapist in for some polygamy, and people were like, oh, that's cool, really? Yeah, no problem. No judgment whatsoever, none. The one thing you couldn't do was talk about dying or any of its attendant symptoms like aging. No aging. And if you got old enough and your age was visible enough, you had to go to Palm Springs. You had to, no, I'm serious. It was our equivalent of putting you on the ice floe. Okay, like the Inuit do. Sorry, and it's like, whatever happened to Mrs. So-and-so? I don't know. She was in our 450 SLC just driving east. Never saw her again, and she's in Palm Desert at Thunderbird or whatever, and now she, you don't know. But the one thing you could never say about Mrs. So-and-so is she died like we all will. Totally not acceptable. And as a result of that, beneath, and if those of you who've lived there or know the area or any town like that, I doubt Aspen or Jackson are any different, right? The one thing about those towns is the anxiety level is crazy high. And that's why everyone's on benzos. Or like climbing to the top of Snow King manically or whatever, doing so much cardio that they calm down. I'm not joking. Anyone familiar with the culture I'm talking about? The white wine, now Casamigos, it's changed, but whatever, same idea. There's a crazy amount of anxiety because no one can acknowledge the core truth of life, which is that it ends. And any attempt to even talk about this or engage in a religious discussion, which by definition implies death and powerlessness, was rejected as like repulsive and an attack. And it made everyone crazy, and it made them cowards. That's true, it made them cowards. So as long as you're afraid of that, you're not going to be very effective fighting against people who really are serving a cause they believe is larger than themselves. Now, I think it's Satan or whatever you call it, but it doesn't matter what I think. They believe they are acting on behalf of something larger than themselves, the revolution. And if you're just like, make it go away, I don't want to be uncomfortable, you're going to lose. And the consequences are going to be horrible. Probably not for anyone in this room, because like everyone here is kind of higher income and older like me. But certainly for your kids, there's like no chance they'll prosper in a country like that. There's no chance. And your grandkids, I mean, they'll just be like texting each other, where can we move? Where can we move? Oh, nowhere. So it's essential not to be afraid to die. And once you decide, I'm really not afraid to die, nothing scares you. Like, what's scary at that point? Bring it on. Oh, you're going to criticize me on Facebook. You're going to bring suit against me. You're going to arrest me. You're going to kill me. So what? Go ahead. And I would make two arguments, and I'll stop with this because now I'm really getting crazy, but I mean it. I would make two arguments on behalf of not being afraid of death. And the first is just an obvious mechanistic argument that I think everyone, regardless of religious faith, can understand, which is you're going to anyway, and it's going to be horrible. So, like, why not? You're playing with the house money. It's going to be bad no matter what. You might as well die with your shoes on doing something you believe in. And so if you're willing to kind of roll the dice on that, considering you're going to die anyway, there's really nothing to be afraid of other than cowardice. Living as a slave, hating yourself, being held in contempt by those closest to you, living without purpose, those are the things to fear. So I will stop with that and just say, take heart. Take heart. Your bravery is scarier to the other side than any weapon you could marshal. They melt in the face of it. They've only advanced this quickly because they've met no resistance at all, because everybody is a cucked coward. Oh, I don't want to make anybody mad. Yeah, really? You know, it stops here. If you had 10% of the population take that posture, this crap would end immediately. That's it. That's all it takes. And I hope that we will. Anyway, thank you very much.